What is up, everybody? Welcome to Sports Card Talk episode 6. Exciting times. We're revamping the pod. It will now be twice a week. So you have 2 episodes coming on YouTube every week and also 2 episodes coming on the podcast every week, which you can find on Spotify. Again, we have our other hosts, Coleman Cards and Shia, and we're all back at it. And I'm excited to get this journey started with you guys as well.
What's up, Sash? Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no problem.
Salutations. I'm back at Sealer Cards on Instagram. What's up, everybody?
All right, guys. So the first thing I wanted to go over, this weekend we saw some crazy numbers on some Jordan Flair PSA 10 and also a Charizard first edition PSA 10. The Jordan went for $200K, and I believe it was sold through Golden Auctions. And then I think the Zard was part of that PWCC event that they had. That ended last night. I don't know if the Zard technically sold yet, just because, I don't know. But that is a new all-time high, not verified yet. So I wanted to get into that. What are you guys' kind of first initial thoughts of those two price points for those PSA 10s?
Coleman, go ahead.
I'm blown away by the Charizard. Like when who's the DJ that bought it for 220?
The rapper Logic bought it.
Logic. That's right. When he bought it for 220, I was like, he must be buying it at a high, and it's going to go down to like 150 or something, just because like the market was so hot at the time. But it just shows that the PSA 10 stuff is so rare and so unavailable that it has the ability to continue to go up, even when the market seems like it's completely white hot. And then with the Jordan Fleer 10 at 200K, that's a monster sale. That was a $65,000 to $70,000 card in June. So it's pretty astounding how fast that card has risen up. And to me, it just is a testament on both of these sales of what is happening with high end anything right now. Whether it be funds trying to pick it up, big time investors trying to pick it up, or even collectors that are trying to consolidate to move up to get their grail cards. High-end stuff right now is hotter than it's ever been. And, because it's so unavailable, it's simple supply and demand. I don't know that it's going to go down or correct or anything like that. It'll most likely only go up.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think a lot of people, especially with what happened with the base market last year, because they're not looking at a big enough scale. Because like if you look at it from the beginning, base went crazy. It went from whatever Sasha was picking up Luka's at like $60, and they went up all the way to 2,000. But they're like, yeah, but I bought at 1,200. It went from 2,000 back to 1,200. It's $800 drop. So that's what kind of put people on the higher end. The Jordan, it's an iconic card. When I think a basketball card, the first one that pops in my mind is the Jordan.
Yeah.
I just think it's such an iconic card. And I think regarding the two, I think one big similarity is how hard it is to get a PSA 10 on those two. Mm-hmm. I have a friend of mine. He sent in 5 or 6 first edition cards, I believe. He didn't get a higher grade than a 7, and he thought they were in good condition. So people don't understand how hard it is to grade Pokemon. I don't. But I've 100%. Seen the results, and it's not easy by any means.
Yeah. So that brings up a good point. What do you, the 9s, the PSA 9s, the BGS 9s, the BGS 9.5s, PSA 8s, BGS 8s, both of those cards are still, those prices are still staying the same. And specifically to the Charizard, actually, if you look at it, the PSA 9s and BGS 9.5s, actually, if you look at it from like this last 2-month window, has came down while the Charizard PSA 10's going up. What do you feel like, hey, like because these 10s are such good buys right now, or because they're getting such premiums right now, maybe investors and collectors should look at the 9s and 9.5s, or if you have the mindset of like, hey, look, the 10 is just such a it's so limited, and it's just the card that the 9s and 8.5s, they might see some room, but they're not going to be, you're not going to see the same trends as a PSA 10 would.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people have this sentiment towards BGS now. Like I was looking at LeBron BGS 9s, compared to PSA 9s. And I saw LeBron BGS 9s are doing or the auctions I saw are going like 2,500, 3K. Well, the PSA 9 is going for 4K. So it's like at like 2,500, BGS 9 seems pretty cheap. But I think there's a lot of sentiment towards BGS because of how their operation is going right now. Also, there's been like this new thing of fake slabs. I don't think I own any, but I've heard all this stuff, and people are like taking them off the market, this and that. At the end of the day, the PSA 10, besides the BGS 10 and the BGS black label and all that, that's the grail. Everybody wants a PSA 10 over a 9.5. There's just such a big difference between a 9.5 and a PSA 10 right now. So I just think it's a higher premium, and I think people are realizing that.
I would jump on with that and just say, look, at the end of the day, these are iconic cards and everybody wants one. And so buying a PSA 9 or a PSA 8 or a BGS 8.5, whatever it may be, it's not a bad purchase or anything like that because it's going to hold its value. It's going to slowly go up. It's just never going to see those meteor, I don't know how to say it. It's never going to go up the same way that a PSA 10 goes up because all the big, huge money that has the money to be able to buy these cards only wants the best because they're used to being able to have the best of whatever it is. So they only want the PSA 10. And then you look at populations. I don't know Charizard, but I pulled up Jordan. The Jordan PSA 10 is a pop 317. There's only 317 copies. It's a very hard one to even pin down, that it's 317 because there's worry about altered ones. There's obviously the authenticity worry. So people like the new slabs because there's more security to it. Also, not every PSA 10 is the same because of centering, because of little nicks, everything like that. Eye appeal. So when you're talking about like the creme de la creme of the PSA 10s for Jordan, it might not be 317. It might be even less than that. So the population is just extremely small. There's not a lot of them. Nobody wants to give them up. And when they do come to market, especially if they're one of the premium copies, they're just going to see incredible rises as opposed to the PSA 9 that has a population of 2,800. That card is readily available. I mean, that's about 800 more or so than the LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 10. The LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 10 is going to continue to be a card that is on the market no matter what because there's just enough copies and that card has risen so much that it's going to be available. Whereas the PSA 9 Jordan is readily available as well. So that's going to trade and slowly go up. But with PSA 10s, they just don't come to market. So when they actually do, everyone gets their war chest ready and is willing to go crazy trying to get one, right? So, and I'm sure the same thing applies for the Charizard, just like Shia was saying, and, everything like that with condition. If the condition is so sensitive like that, there's just not enough PSA 10s to go around. And you have all these people that are millionaires, deca millionaires that are ready to buy a card and want to have an alternative, investment form with the cards. And they're not going after a 9. They want to go after the best of the best, because of the, it's just as much as buying a Ferrari just so you can show people that it's a Ferrari as opposed to buying like a sports car that's maybe just as good that costs, a quarter of the price.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to be interesting to see what will, PSA 10s of that card be in like a year from now? I can only imagine. If, the Jordan's already at 200 and the Zard is going to be at 350, I can only imagine. And the next topic I wanted to talk about is Trae Young. His market over the last month has been extremely interesting, to say the least. We've seen a big rise, and I think there has been a lot of hobby talk and industry talk about it. But then in the last 2 weeks, we've kind of seen it settle. I believe the last time we talked, or at least the last time me and Coleman, we were at a show, we were picking up Trae Young base 10s at anywhere from 300 to 350 value, I want to say. Don't quote me, but somewhere around there. I know, Shia, you were picking that card up at around that price as well. And then we saw the peak where 10s on eBay got to almost 700. And then now we're sitting at like what are we sitting at for that card? Around 550, I want to say, 600. around somewhere
Yeah,
around
low
there.
600s, I think, on eBay. I think.
So, I mean, first off, what did you kind of guys see overall in the last month, and what was your kind of experience with that card over the last month with Trae Young? Because it seems like a lot of people have different takes on it. You know, some people think it was pumps. Some people, select few are pumping it. Some people just really like Trae. So I just want to get your initial thoughts.
Well, there's a lot of variables to it. Probably, one of the biggest variables is the fact that Trae didn't play in the bubble. So people were, very curious to see, thinking that possibly he's undervalued because he didn't have that bubble bump, even though his stuff did actually have that bubble bump. It's just people don't think that it had the bubble bump because he didn't play. But if you look at his charts, Trae stuff went up just like everybody else's during the bubble. And it's not because of his play, obviously. It's just because so much more money was being injected into the market that everything sort of naturally went up. So there's that variable. There's also obviously the Hawks getting better and trying to build around Trae to try to get to the playoffs. So that's a factor. But I mean, at the end of the day, like what I've been seeing is, a month ago, November 12th, November 13th in Dallas, I was watching Trae Prism Silver's the first day get, traded around 1,800 to 2,000.
Yeah.
By the end of the show, 3 days later, nobody was selling one for less than 2,500. And then, within a couple of weeks, they shot up to 3,000. Now they've settled back to 2,800. 2,800, 3,000, give or take. So, he experienced an incredible rise. And if you jumped in on that, then you made a quick buck and, it still can go up. But we have seen some settling for sure with the Prism base, with the Prism Silver. But I mean, again, like it's a matter of, well, if you bought it at 400, which was still, all-time high at the time for Prism-based PSA 10, and you held it for a month, you're going to make 50% on your money. And if you can find another investment like that, please tell me so I can try and find it too. So again, like it's a crazy jump. We've just seen it settle and go down a little bit. So everyone's, it's such a reactionary market. We're just like, oh, Trae stuff is like settled and it's going down. It's like, well, not really. I mean, it just went up and then came down a little bit like a natural market works. The quote, what goes up must come down. We saw it too with the high-end Trae. High-end Trae stuff went insane in the last month. We saw red PSA 10s at a 299 Prism, trading at 7,500 at the Dallas show.
I got 7,500 value out of
right. And I know a couple other people did at the show as well. Well, one just closed at 7K bids on eBay, and there's really none even available. There's only a couple available on eBay, so that's settling down a little bit. The high-end stuff, and again, another thing too that I want to point out is this happens when you have a superstar like Luka in a draft class like Luka, is the Luka prices get so insane that people don't want to spend that money because they feel like it's tapped out, so they're looking for the next thing. So they move down to the next guy in that class, which right now is Trae. Might not always be Trae, but right now it's Trae. And his prices are a quarter, maybe a third compared to Luka. So people say, well, there's room there. So they jump on that. So with the high end, people were putting money into the high end thinking, maybe we can see some rises and stuff. The problem that occurs, in my opinion, is that with Luka stuff, even at these crazy prices, everyone I know collects Luka. Both of you guys have Luka stuff in your inventory. I collect Luka personally, and everyone I know or talk to collects Luka in some capacity, whether it be to flip or to hold. Everyone loves Luka. There is a collector base for Luka built in to the market, to where even if Luka sprains his ankle and is out for 2 weeks, his stuff isn't going to really dip. If anything, people are just going to swarm in and try and buy it. Whereas Trae, there's only so many collectors for Trae. Most of it is investing. So it's very volatile. So with this high-end stuff, it can go up and go crazy because of the hype. But at the same time, if Trae doesn't come out and put up these superstar stats that everyone is expecting him to do, you're shaping yourself up for a potential loss. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying, you got to understand why these markets work the way they do. And, it's all built on the fact that this is a hobby and people collect these cards. And so, that's what
I would say if you're buying Trae Young right now, you're making the bet that they're going to be a playoff team, right? That Trae's going to get them into the playoffs. If you don't think that's going to happen, then don't buy Trae Young. I look at it from like a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like it's just simple for me because if Trae makes the playoffs, then that means he's going to have a good year. That means prices are going to go up.
Unless
right?
you like Trae, right? Unless you
unless you really, really like Trae, yeah.
Yeah, unless you really like Trae and you just want the card and you want to hold it and everything, but just be ready for an investment vehicle for it to be a bumpy ride, potentially.
Yeah, I think that if you're buying Trae now, I don't think it's so much playoffs because I think that's too far. I think it's, do you think he'll come out and win the first 5 games? Do you think he'll go 4-for-1 in the first 5 games? Because if he doesn't, those are going to tank. That people are going to panic sell. It's going to be a dumpster fire. So if you're buying Trae, you're expecting him to ball out and win 4 out of those 5 first games. I don't know what the schedule is, but I'm just saying that's about what it is. Then if it tanks, then that'd be a good opportunity to buy if you think they'll be a playoff team.
I like that. One thing I would say, and over the last year, even last year in general, it seemed like the 2 young guys that the hobby really, really coveted, one was Luka, and I feel like the other one was still Trae. Like people really, really like Trae as well. Not in just terms of like the playing style, but also like the hobby in general, I feel like just really likes Trae. So I don't know if that becomes a factor of like they like him to a fault, right? Whereas Luka is just this like freak of like Luka to me is like going to be, if he's healthy, like in the discussion of top 5, top 10 all time, has a chance to be the best player of all time if he can stay healthy. He's got to win chips, all that sort of stuff. But I could see that happening. Whereas Trae, there's still some question marks there.
Yeah,
I would just jump on real quick and say an interesting thing about Luka is I would disagree with you, Sasha, and say that Luka doesn't even need to win for maybe the next 5 years. Doesn't need to win
for his hobby prices, for his industry prices. You're saying? I
all
agree with
all he needs to do is have his triple doubles that he has every single game almost, right? He just needs to average a triple double like he probably will be able to do for the next 5 years, no problem.
Yeah.
And get to the second round and stuff like that because people will just still buy him and collect him and just say, well, he doesn't have the help because Luka is so collectible. Whereas Trae needs to win.
But Trae doesn't need to win. He just needs to get into the 7-8 seed. That's what I think with Trae.
And that'd be a huge improvement.
And that's what I mean, right? Winning to progress.
And then that will get people to say, oh, well, he made the playoffs. Luka made the playoffs. Trae prices is this, whatever. And then the discussion keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you on the Luka thing. I think if he just does what he's doing right now and he's getting into the second round for the next couple of years, I think that's what people are okay with. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And then, but I do think eventually, just like with Giannis right now, everybody's looking at Giannis and like, yo, where are the chips at? I think that will, that discussion will come with Luka. It's too early right now, but it definitely will.
Absolutely.
The next thing I wanted to jump into was, and I know me, Coleman, we talked about this before we jumped on, what was Kobe cards specifically and LeBron cards. I love Kobe cards as a buy right now. I think Shia, you do as well. I think all 3 of us are in agreement on that. They're not making any more autos, so I feel like that's kind of a safe good buy. I think his rookie cards are generally a good buy. And I keep hearing about that there's gonna be some sort of documentary, but like I don't know specifically where that's coming from. I don't know if you guys do as well. But what are you expecting for Kobe cards over this next year, and we'll throw in LeBron in there as well.
Yeah, so I think they're gonna just continue to go up. We're already seeing Kobe stuff, like high-end stuff. There's a lot of people that are looking for it to try to get it, just to have it because it's not available and it doesn't come available, so that price is getting driven up. And then I think there's just a lot of Kobe rookies, PSA 8, PSA 9, BGS 9, BGS 9.5. Even PSA 10s that are just still affordable and still technically kind of cheap when you compare it to other stuff. And, he's got Hall of Fame coming up. And his market works off of LeBron a little bit. So if LeBron stuff's going to go up, Kobe stuff's going to go up a little bit. I don't want to jump to those Jordan auctions that we're going to talk about here in a second, but based off some of these extremely high historic sales that we've seen on these Jordan auctions, it's just going to make people look at the Kobe stuff and say, well, I want to get one of those Kobe's because they don't come available. So I think we're going to see Kobe stuff go up. But it's nothing really new. I mean, LeBron, Kobe, MJ, all that stuff just slowly goes up over time. So yeah, I think we're going to see another rush of Kobe stuff, definitely moving into next year with the so-called or alleged documentary that's going to come out, and then also Hall of Fame for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think the main thing with Kobe is just so globally loved, and there's very few players in today's NBA that are like that. So I think that's why I think Kobe's are going to be such a high commodity in the next couple months. It's very hard to come by a nice auto because all the guys that have them generally either want something really cool in trade, they want a lot above value, or they're just holding it. Like, it's very hard to find cool autos. I know everybody the definition of a cool auto kind of changes per person, but I'm talking about the upper deck autos where he's wearing the number 8 and all of those ones. I think those are the best ones. And LeBron is a great buy. LeBron was up to his PSA 10 Topps Chrome was up to $15K. A lot of people are expecting him to go back to back. They got more players onto that Lakers team to help him. I think that's going to go past $15K this season. And I think Kobe's are a great buy too, with the Topps Chrome, with no greening, because there's that whole issue.
Yeah.
And then there's the Topps paper, and then there's all the other cool inserts and such.
What do you think about, do you think the greening aspect of the Topps Chrome, guys, is going to I mean, of course it affects the price points of each specific card, whether one's more, greened out than another. But do you think that that's going to steer people off from even buying that card in general?
I think it'll steer people off of buying a green card. It won't. I think it's just going to raise the premium on the non-green.
Do you think that the separation between a fully green card and a less greened is going to further, or do you think that it's going to be similar as
No, it's gonna. I think it'll further, because you don't want a green Kobe.
Okay.
You want what the Kobe was supposed to be manufactured. That's how you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of what Coleman was saying earlier, that all MJ PSA 10s aren't the same condition. There's the centering aspect, there's the nicks and all that. I think that's going to be the same thing. They may all be PSA 10s, but because one has the greening and some has more greening than the other, it's going to widen. And I think those ones that are not greened at all are just going to be such a high commodity. And you barely see those.
Yeah, 100%. They're hard to come by.
One thing to consider in that, because I agree with both of you, but one thing to consider in that is that the big money fish are aware that these cards green, and aware that there's green ones and that there's non-green ones, and that you're not guaranteed that a non-green one won't turn green through the years.
Yep.
So that factors into the gap as well. Some big fish might say, you know what, I don't mind buying a green one because they might all turn green, so I'll take the discount. Obviously, there's a massive premium on the non-green ones. Not a massive, but there's definitely a premium on the non-green ones. But again, what's keeping some of that premium from growing is the fact that people are saying, well, I'm willing to pay more for the non-green one, but not that much more, because if it turns green, then I just overpaid for a green one. So, I mean, we just saw, though, a green one at Heritage, right? So $138,000 for a Kobe 1996 Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10. Just ended in the last 48 hours.
Wow.
Totally greened out.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, that's the card, right? And some of them are green, some of them are not. We don't know how many aren't green. We know that they're few and far between, and people don't want to give them up. This one was also perfectly centered, so that adds to it as well. There's just a lot of variables, but I would say that you gentlemen are right that there's going to be a premium on non-green ones. But, it's an interesting market because people are timid to get into it knowing that the cards are green. I just think that at the end of the day, it's a stock certificate in a way. It's not so much about the eye appeal of the card because it's not guaranteed. And people just want to be able to own the card and know that and understand that it's a stock certificate. Like, it is the card. Doesn't matter if it's green or not, It's the card.
I guess you could use the like let's say you have a less green card, you can use like as a negotiation tactic, like, hey, I don't know if this card is going to green a year or 2 years from now, as like a way to maybe get a discount.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean,
like,
that's only, yeah, it's natural. Wouldn't you do
yeah,
it?
I one
That's a great,
100%.
it's a great bargaining chip.
And then maybe the one that is already fully greened, you already got like a discount there. I just feel like that's a card though. At the same time, that like it's just so hard to come by too. Whereas like if I saw like a pretty greened out Kobe, I'd still try to buy it. I feel like I don't know if about you guys if you would do that too. If the price is right, like I'd still go ahead and buy it, just because that's a card too that just doesn't come around too often.
I'm just so turned off by the green.
I know it's
I
not
would rather just go
appealing.
buy another card.
So okay, let me ask you that you'd rather buy like a LeBron Chrome?
No, just go find another Kobe
Oh,
or a nice
gotcha.
Kobe auto or something along those lines. If I'm looking for a Kobe and I can't
Mm.
find one that's green, not green, and those are going to be so expensive, the ones that are not green, then that's just the eye appeal. Like I don't know. I just don't like the green and by any means. I don't think anyone does, but
Yeah,
I
maybe you go for the Topps Finest, or I don't know.
or even the
Other-
top
Can
paper.
green though. Topps
Oh,
finest
I
can
didn't
green.
know. I didn't know
Bowman,
Topps Finest could green.
Topps
so
paper can't
so
green.
can Bowman's Best. All Topps finest can green. All Bowman's Best. All the Chromium cards from 1996 can green, and 97 as well. The technology just wasn't there yet.
Wow.
But
Well,
I would also like mention with the greening and with people being afraid to do it, that's why I think it's a buying opportunity. Because look at, I mean, maybe it's not the same exact thing, but it's the same exact mindset. Luka National Treasures RPA at a 99. The fact that it has the Lulu auto and it's not game worn jersey deterred people away from wanting to get that card. Because people would say, well, if it comes out that his mom signed the autos or his girlfriend signed the autos or somebody else signed the autos, and the fact that it's not game worn jersey, whereas Flawless is game worn jersey, you know, people really like that game worn jersey thing. These things deterred people away from spending $10K on a card that is now worth $200K a year later. So again, like in 10 years from now, I don't think the greening thing is going to matter as much as people talk about it right now. Because 10 years from now, people aren't going to care. They're just going to want the card, and
they
it's
just
not
want to get their
available.
hands on one. Yeah, I agree. It's yeah. I'm after this, I'm going to be trying to go get one. So, next thing I wanted to go over, guys, is what are your kind of thoughts about this, season coming ahead in terms of the market? I mean, last year was a huge boom for the industry. I know that with the football market specifically, like in the early season, we saw these crazy prices, and then it fell off. The soccer market specifically right now is not doing is just not doing what it was just a couple months ago in August. So like what are you guys expecting in general in terms of prices? Yeah.
I'd love to get Shaya's opinion on this.
All right. Regarding the football market, I think because I know Coleman and Sasha aren't too big in that market. I think there was a great buying opportunity with Deshaun Watson a couple of weeks ago, and I did end up picking up a couple of his Prism PSA 10s. Regarding big guys like Mahomes and Kyler Murray, I think I saw the Prism PSA 10 just a couple of weeks ago was doing 5K. It's up to 8,500 now. So, and obviously he's performing and all that. Regarding those type of guys, I think you gotta wait until season ends or like right after they win, kind of what happened with Mahomes last year. That's when you buy and you hold. Mahomes is gonna be an amazing quarterback for many years to come. The rest is like who do you think is gonna be next up? I think Deshaun Watson is gonna be the second best once all the legends like Aaron Rodgers and all those guys retire. I also think Aaron Rodgers is going to be one of those guys. I think Sasha was actually talking about him in one of the lives. I think he's going to be one of those guys personally that he's only going to be truly appreciated once he retires. I think people are going to realize like, wow, this guy was so great, and people are going to be watching his highlights. And he's obviously putting on an amazing season right now. Regarding the soccer market, I had one. I am out of that, thankfully. I am no longer in the soccer market. I just don't have enough confidence in that market as of right now. Basketball-wise, I know there's been a lot of talk about last season and how much hype was coming in, and now prices are at what they were last year, but with less hype. I think it's just one guy that can set it flying again. I think there are people still waiting to announce that are going to come in, and I think it's going to make the market boom. But obviously, there's a lot of expectations. A lot of guys are spending $500 on a Cam Reddish silver. Guys are spending a lot of money on Sekou, Cam Johnson, Luka second year, LeBron. There's the guys that are already established, and then there's a lot of prospecting going on, which is understandable. There's like guys like MPJ and Shea. A lot of guys are high on both of those guys. So I think a lot of people are gonna do well. I think a lot of people are going to suffer from the prospecting, but obviously I'm expecting one or two guys to hit big. I think that there's so many guys that I think a couple of guys will step up and perform, and the prices will go up. I don't know for how long, because it's a very reactionary market, but I think it's going to be very interesting to see if any new players come in, which I do think there will be, and I do think that'll have a major effect. Because I just don't see for a whole year with cards increasing that all these guys – these big fish don't come in and kind of say, hey, I'm getting into this. And yeah, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now what we're seeing leading up to the season is what we see pretty regularly. But, it's just a bigger market now. So we're seeing it emphasized, which is prospecting and going after the young guys and making their bets on young guys in general, all the way down from Luka to, is it Cole Anthony or something like that, So people are going to place their bets on that, which usually means it's a good time to buy MJ, LeBron, Kobe, everything like that, because once we see all the young horses out of the gate and some of them are falling and failing and stumbling, usually the money gets scared and goes back to MJ, LeBron, Kobe, which makes that go up. But again, it's a completely new market. It's maturing. It's getting smarter. So, that might not be the case anymore. Maybe people are buying MJ, LeBron, Kobe right now. And this is, I don't think that's the case. So I think MJ, LeBron, Kobe stuff is just going to go up actually. But yeah, I think we're just seeing a lot of money, go place their bets basically before the season starts on young guys, which will result in record highs for some young guys. And then it'll go down because they won't perform. And then, some of those bets will pay off and go up, marginally or a little bit or a lot. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to lose money on young guys just because it's prospecting at its finest. It's interesting because, if you look at it a year ago, Luka base 10s were $60. Now what can you get for a base 10 rookie at $60 anymore? Right? It's
the bottom of the class in 2018, 2019.
I don't even think you can get Jarrett Allen.
I don't even think RJ Barrett is $60.
Oh no, he's
about
200.
Justin James.
Some of those. It's a lot of people I feel are trying to missed out maybe, right? Last year, right? So they're trying to revamp what they missed out on. Mm-hmm. Whereas Luka's once in a generation, right? So for a card to go from $60 to $1,700, whatever it is today, that doesn't happen to every single player. So I feel a lot of people are going to be losing money on prospecting. But in terms of the basketball market in general, it's the strongest market out of all sports. It is. I mean, it's where the most money is going to be. It's where it's where people want to put the most money into. And it's, basketball's culture. So I'm excited about the basketball market this year. I think there's going to be record prices for the Kobe stuff, premium guys, guys that are iconic. The young guys is just up to if they play good or not, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys, especially prospecting, I think obviously some guys think they're going to be I don't think many, but I think some guys believe maybe they'll become Luka-esque. But I think a lot of people are hoping what kind of happened with MPJ last year. where he was like, okay, people weren't sure. And then he had those 2 or 3 games where he just went crazy. His prices shot up, went into the playoffs, and then he just didn't play very well yet. Got like 12 points or so. So I think they're kind of hoping for that quick bump, dump it, and then move on to the next thing.
And I don't see anything like, well, at the end of the day, we day trade too, right? We're day trading base, silvers, whatever. That's a good way to make money. But I would just emphasize that we're day trading that. We're not holding the bag on that, right? Because at the end of the day, somebody will be losing quite a bit of money on base and silver stuff, I feel like. Because with any market, shit goes up and shit goes down, right? So I would just say and emphasize, make sure you know what you're holding on to long term and do your due diligence, and make sure you know the stuff that you're moving consistently.
Absolutely.
Last thing I wanted to go over, I just thought it was super interesting, the new product that came out, Panini 1-in-1. I know we've all heard about it, and it seems like it was a hit. I know when it first came out, I went to my LCS, and he actually showed me the case, and he had a case, and he was going to sell it to me at $500 per box. And I didn't do it because I didn't know anything about the product. But I think now each box is going for $650, $700, somewhere around there. What were your kind of initial thoughts about the product, and are you just intrigued about how well it's doing currently?
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Originally, I think a lot of people, because of how Panini 1 was in football, it wasn't really anything special. I think it was just another product. I think a lot of people disregarded it. I didn't even know when it released. I just saw through various people the timeless moments. And I think if those timeless moments weren't in the product, no one would buy the product. I think those timeless moments are just so cool. And there's been nothing like that. There's been like the Kawhi shot. There's Curry, Rodman. There's like a lot of great players in that there with like great shots. And I don't know if we'll ever see shots like those again. And I think that's what just carrying the product. And I think people just love those cards, and they're also pretty limited, very hard to pull. And yeah, so I like those, but obviously they're carrying a high premium.
I think the product is great with the downtown inserts. They just look really, really nice this year. And then, there's a timeless moments autos, which came out of the gate really hot. So, there's a couple of cool chases in there, which is, and there's just no product really. So I think that, when it came out, people were justified in thinking that it was a little bit too expensive for only getting 2 cards. But then once people started pulling, $6,000-$7,000 LeBron downtowns or Zion downtowns or Luka downtowns, they started seeing like, oh, okay, well, it's $500 a box, but you can, go 10x if you hit a card. And, what are the chances of hitting that card? I don't know, but it's definitely possible. So it drove the price up a little bit. And the fact that all wax is really expensive at $500, it was actually a decent price point for, the chance of hitting some big cards and stuff.
One thing I took away from both of you guys is, one, the cards were aesthetically pleasing, which is good. Mm-hmm. And then number 2, they're limited, right? And I think those 2 things really come into play with any product. Is it, can anybody go get that card? Is it, overproduced, or is it limited? And then number 2, does the card just look dope? Because I feel like if a card just looks dope, people want the card at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. If you guys are listening or watching, you're going to notice that these episodes are going to be shorter than the previous ones. It's because we're going to be filming twice a week. So it'll be around 2 30 to 45-minute episodes instead of the one long hour and a half to whatever 3 hours we used to do. So hopefully this will be, a little bit, see how you guys like it. Let us know, right, what you think, and see. And also let us know if you have any questions as well. So you can DM any one of us. And we're also going to have an email where you can DM your questions, and we'll answer them on these episodes as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, guys, you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and make sure you're following all of us on Instagram below. And then make sure if you guys are listening on the podcast on Spotify, you're following us on Spotify as well. And make sure you tell a family member or a friend. Alrighty, guys. We'll see you in the next pod/YouTube video.
She want me to lock it down, but I told her to pass the key. You gotta slow it down, girl, you moving too fast for me. Nobody did it like this, so they wonder, they asking me if I can slow it down, cause it's coming too fast for me.